Welcome to Colorado Inside Out Post-Game, a special web-exclusive production here on Channel 12. Let's get a quick take on the newly released feasibility study on the future of a few of Colorado's major event venues, including the National Western Stock Show Complex. The results suggest costly changes without outlining a clear budget. Patty, this is just the latest that we have of tackling the issues around the National Western Stock Show, but conveniently not worried about how much it's going to cost. What did you make of the reports this week?
Well, it was interesting since we've been waiting for this report since November 2012 when Michael Hancock said he'd had the talks with the National Western Stock Show and they would stay in Denver, although not really where in Denver. But we've been waiting from then till now for this feasibility study, which involved Visit Denver, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, as well as the city, as well as the stock show. And it was a really interesting kind of pie in the sky report. It looks great. We're building a lot of things and it's going to cost hundreds of millions of dollars if it happens, and who knows how it will happen. I mean, it looked very pretty. So what they were talking about is keeping the stock show basically where it is, but on the north side of I-70, building about 5 new huge buildings and arenas, and then also expanding the Colorado Convention Center so that we don't lose some of those conventions by adding, say, a ballroom on top. It was really interesting, but remember, it was almost 3 years ago exactly that Aurora suddenly was looking like they were going to rustle the stock show away, and the stock show looked kind of interested in being rustled away from Denver. So I think we still, now they're actually all talking to each other, but we still have a long way to go to figure out how to fund this.
David Kopel from the Independence Institute and DU Law School. Is this an opportunity or a quagmire for Mayor Hancock? I mean, at one end, if he solves this thing, that would seem to really help grease the wheels for his re-election campaign, but it also seems like this has been trying to be solved for a long time.
Well, the solution is the stock shows is efforts to take money out of the public's hands and put it in its own pockets. They got a huge corporate welfare deal by on the ballot. People voted for it in 1988 because they were threatening to move to Texas, and they blackmailed the people of Denver. They got their corporate welfare and new buildings, and they had continuing then legal obligations under that to do their own maintenance and upgrades, which they didn't do. And now they're coming and saying, oh, look, these facilities are so inadequate because we didn't keep our half of the deal. Enough is enough. I love the stock show. I think it's a great thing about Denver's character, but the stock show should pay for the stock show's own facilities. The business of government is not to take money from people who are taxpayers and give it to big business.
Penfield Tate, attorney with Greenberg Traurig, also a longtime state lawmaker. What did you make of the report and the position that Mayor Hancock's in?
I think the mayor's in a unique position. You asked before whether it was a quagmire or an opportunity. I think it's a huge opportunity. I think the stock show is a sort of an issue that's been hanging out there in Denver for a while, and we have a chance to resolve it. The feasibility study is interesting, but it's a bit disappointing. I think to Patty's point, there are many people I deal with who wouldn't call it a feasibility study. It's a wish list if you don't put a dollar price tag on it and say whether it's achievable because it's within the cost that we can afford to incur and the stock show can afford to incur. The other thing is I still think you have an interesting issue that has to be married with that. I'm hearing that the whole I-70 East issue is not finally resolved. I know that we've got this EIS coming and the plan to underground it, but there's also a significant push to sort of reroute it and do the 270 bypass. So that needs to be factored into all of this because that may change what's feasible under the feasibility study.
Ed Seelever from the Denver Business Journal. There are ramifications all over this, so I can definitely see Penn's point this being an opportunity. But how much of that can Mayor Hancock control?
Well, in 20 years of covering politics, I can tell you there are two kinds of reports that precede requests for tax hikes: reports of imminent doom and reports of imminent jackpot. And this is not the 2005 referendum C, hey, guess what all we're going to close if you don't vote for us move. This is the, hey, guess what we can do if you just give us a little bit more. I mean, I think that's obviously where they've got to go, or there's got to be some brilliant strategist who comes up with a public-private partnership that will have have to alleviate the massive amounts of influx they think is needed here. And it should be interesting to see, starting Monday, the Denver City Council will start discussing, okay, so what do we want to do now that we have this report? For Hancock, I think it's a very opportunist thing too, because he's a year out from his reelection at this point. And this is clearly something he's not going to get done. But this is something he can say, hey, I have a goal for my second term. I know what needs to be done with the stock show, and I'm going to bring this city back to glory. So I think there are all kinds of ramifications going forward. I think it's very interesting to look at the convention center, too, especially the way they said, you know, hey, we could use some more hotels downtown. I mean, it didn't actually say, hey, we don't need hotels in Aurora, but if you read between the lines, it said that, too. But I think what this does is set off a series of conversations that are going to have a lot more in-depth talk, and may have to lead to, you know, years and years of more discussion and planning.
That's all the time we have for Colorado Inside Out postgame this week. Leave us a comment and tell us what you think. For everyone here at CPT12.org, I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thanks for watching.